Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to a brand new C# 12 feature that aims to make working with collections way easier. The feature is called collection literals, and the idea is that because C# is a bit of a painful language to work with when it comes to initializing different collections like dictionaries, lists, arrays, or even immutable constructs, this feature completely changes how that is done, and it makes it very easy. In this video I'm going to show you what it is, how it works, and why you should really care about it. If you like that type of content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, and for more training check out my courses on dometrain.com. So I'm in sharplab.io, a website that allows me to write some C#, and I'm using the collection literals branch, so I have the compiler that allows me to use this feature. Now if you wanted to initialize, let's say, a list of some type, in this case I'm going to use a list of integers, you would have something like this. You'd have a list of numbers, and I can simply say list of numbers dot dump to just print it in the console here. Now, this has been simplified in the past few years. For example, you no longer have to have the list here. You can have just a new like this, and this will work. However, you still need the new keyword, you still need these angle brackets, and usually what most people tend to do is format it in this specific way. You have like 3 lines of code just to initialize some items, and this actually gets more complicated the more items you have. Lists are not unique in this. Arrays actually had a simplification happen to them because they were also very painful to work with. For example, if you want to have an array with numbers again, you'd have something like this back in the day, but then this was actually simplified, so you no longer need to have the type here. You can just do this, and this would still work. However, this also changed with this new feature, and if you wanted to allocate a span, for example, so you have a span of integers, you would have to do stack alloc, then specify the type, and then in same fashion, you would say something like 5, 6, and 7, which isn't that nice. You have this stack alloc, this int array here. It's just a bit much. And don't get me started with dictionaries. Dictionary is a long word on its own. So if you have like an int of strings and then you want to initialize that, you would end up with something like this. So dictionary here, yes. And this can be simplified by using var here or removing this and just using new here, because now we can support this in C#, but it wasn't always the case. So quite a bit of stuff to initialize things. Now, collection literals, this new feature, aims to make this all very simple with one unified way of dealing with this. For example, instead of doing this new list to create the new list of a specific type, all you need to do now is I'm gonna get the numbers, go here and say square brackets, and then paste the numbers. And that is it. And behind the scenes, what's happening is that new list, whatever, is added, but now all you have is these square brackets, and that is it. It does the exact same thing. Not only that, but arrays can also work that way. So replace these curly braces with square brackets. Now, I know that this might look a bit weird because it sort of looks like an array thing that is now used into the context of a list, but it gets better or worse, depending on who you ask. It will also work with stack alloc. So you can do this. You can remove that stack alloc of the specific type and just have the exact same thing. So all 3 things now will have the same square brackets approach. And you might be wondering, is this also the case for the dictionary? And the truth is, it actually is. It's a bit different, but yes, that's the plan. It's not supported yet in this branch, but the plan is the following. Instead of having this syntax, you should be able to do this. You would say dictionary, you would remove that type over here, and then you would have the same square bracket. So let me just quickly delete that. And as you can see, this actually compiles as it is right now. And then you would have the first value, which is 1, and then its text value, which is 1, and then the second value, and then its text value. So that will be the exact same thing as this. It's not supported as of now, and this syntax might change, but that is the plan, or at least one of the planned solutions for this. Now, this doesn't end here really, because you can do other things with this approach as well. If, for example, you want to create a list out of this list and this span, and then maybe inject some other value in the middle, you could do the following. You can say list of integers is actually, and I'm gonna call that all numbers, equals, and I'm going to use the same square brackets and say, take this list of numbers as the first parameter, then put a 4 in the middle, and then take this span of numbers. And by the way, if you ever had to do this with traditional C#, you would know how much of a pain it is to do that. Now you don't have to worry about it, and if you want to dump all the numbers, it will concatenate everything into a single list very easily. Now, I absolutely love this feature, and I do have a very reasonable concern, which is, well, what's the right way to do this? Which is, well, okay, so you have this int array approach, which is valid, but also this is the exact same thing. And the only thing that changes is you go from a curly brace to a square bracket, which is interesting because C# is getting a lot of flack for being able to do the same thing multiple times. So I think that specific situation, it's what's pushing it for me. The rest I really like. I also am not a big fan of hiding the fact that behind the scenes here, you have a stack alloc. I like when stack alloc is very visible and you can see it, but the benefit of the simplification you get is quite massive. And to be honest, if you're working with a span, you probably know what a stack alloc is. So it's a good compromise, I think, to have something like this. This reads very, very nicely, in my opinion. And we did get list patterns already. So this should make sense if you are familiar with C# 11 already and 10. Now, one of the biggest questions you might have is, okay, what if I have the following? What if I have an immutable construct? Because those immutable constructs are not just a new immutable array, for example, they have a create method usually. For example, let's say you have this immutable array of integers, which is created by taking another immutable array and then calling the create method. So it doesn't have a traditional constructor. What do you do here? Well, there's actually quite a few ways you can go about this, and I think they're actually going to be implemented. But the first thing I need to do for this to work, or at least feel like it's going to work, is add an extra attribute called collection builder attribute. So we're going to have to use that. I'm going to just put it at the bottom as a helper one. And then I'm going to show you what you could reasonably expect from Microsoft to do, which is in the proposal as well, which there's a link in the description below, which is either use this collection builder attribute to use the type, and then from the type point to the method that knows how to create that type of construct. So in this case, this should be able to work, or something along those lines. Or you can have a constructor-based approach like this one over here, where you say collection builder, the type you want to have, dot constructor or dot ctor is the way to point in a string fashion to the constructor, which is here accepting this read-only span of values. So those are the two approaches we might end up seeing when this feature is fully implemented and in C#. This, of course, does mean that if you have your own collection type with your own approach, you should be able to use that same attribute to point to any create method or constructor to utilize for your own purposes if you have like a custom list or a custom hash set or any of those other types. I think this feature is very cool, very simple, and it follows the same principle of Microsoft that they're trying to simplify some of the things that are a bit legacy. And I do think the way we initialize collections in C# are a bit legacy. Now, you might say this looks a lot like Python or and so on, but I don't think that's a bad thing, especially working with types or numbers. But enough with what I think. I want to know what you think, because as always, the reason why I'm bringing this out very, very early is so you can see how they're going to work, or at least how we expect them to work, and then have your thoughts in the comments down below. And in the proposal, I'm going to link the proposal in the description down below. You can check it out. You can try this. You can see if you have any feedback and try to give it to Microsoft to make this even better. Well, that's all I have for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, keep coding.